Roaring Harris and Crouching Bear, and Donald Trump's two town halls. That's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to Law and Society. Please subscribe and let's briefly talk about this. Just so you know, I'm not going to talk about every single town hall or interview or rally that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have, but I wanted to talk about this because there was quite a contrast that happened today. So Kamala Harris agreed to go on to Fox, and Brett Baier was the interviewer. And it started out right out the set with immigration, and then it went to trans rights, and then it went to the economy and talking about how Harris would be different than Biden. And then the story here of Kamala Harris is that we're going to turn the page, turning the page from the attacks on Americans as being un-American and being the enemy from within. That is the rhetoric that Donald Trump has, and Baier tried to goad Harris into saying something similar about Donald Trump supporters, but obviously Kamala Harris knows how to interview, and therefore she did not answer them. Instead, turned that question around and said, "Why would anybody running for office in the United States, and I'm paraphrasing, want to call Americans the enemies from within? I mean, we're trying to elect the leader of our country. It's not like we're trying to divide the country into two different countries. That's not what we're trying to do." But the idea of them, they, is quite relevant, quite clearly apparent in Donald Trump's speeches, where it's not unifying. And Donald Trump, in his town halls, affirmed that. One of the things that really stood out to me is that Brett Baier didn't talk about the woman's right to choose. They didn't talk about reproductive rights. It was like a big elephant in the room, and didn't really talk much about climate policy either. But for some reason, you know, both uh, both the town hall with the all woman town hall with Donald Trump by Fox, and I think by Harris Faulkner, and the interview by Kamala Harris, they wanted to steer the topic to immigration. So you kind of wonder, when you have a women's issues town hall, and now I'm skipping over because Brett Baier wasn't able to break Kamala Harris. That's the story, and Kamala Harris answered the questions that were given to her, and she made sure that she could get through to Fox viewers what her plans are for housing development, for adjusting the cost of living, for being able to bring cost down by being able to balance energy and continue to be a leader in energy production that we are right now. And Donald Trump lies about it in the town hall, that we are now producing more energy than any other country in the world, but we're doing it in a balanced way. And Donald Trump's town hall, he said something very different about drill, baby, drill, and said that climate change is about worrying about the oceans to rise by an inch in 300 years. And he's more worried about nuclear war than he is about climate change, even though the impact of the climate crisis is being felt every single day. So Kamala Harris kept answering the questions by saying that I will uphold the rule of law. I will uphold the rule of law. And that was important because Donald Trump didn't uphold the rule of law. That was one of the last things that he didn't do. And we hear that in the town hall. So in the Fox town hall, there was one woman who asked the question about Roe versus Wade and about the woman's right to choose. And Donald Trump defended the fact that Roe was something that people wanted to get off the books and wanted to overrule for 52 years, and he got it done, and now it's up to the states. That's the same regurgitated answer that he gave at the Univision town hall, and there was only one question about that in the entire town hall. However, the Univision town hall, there were two instances where Donald Trump was asked. One where Donald Trump was asked about Springfield, Ohio, and the lie about immigrants eating dogs, and he just blamed it on the media, saying, "Oh, we have to do an investigation." Nah, 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 nah. He didn't answer the question. He didn't say that. No, that's not what's happening. He didn't say that. And then one gentleman asked question about January 6th and how that, how, and asked Donald Trump, how could Donald Trump earn back this person's vote after what this person saw on January 6th? Donald Trump lied about January 6th again. He said that he had nothing to do with the people who went there to listen to his speech. Whereas we know from the indictment, we know from the January 6th committee report that Donald Trump repeatedly informed his flock to be at the Stop the Steal rally. It will be wild. That was on December 19th. So he lies about January 6th and he says nobody got killed. And then he says Ashley Babbitt got killed. He says nothing about the 5 police officers who died as a result of the riot and the violent insurrection, because he doesn't want to talk about the truth about what happened. He said that I felt that it was an event of love because he was only there to give a speech and he was invited there to give a speech. And we see how that is entirely untrue when you look at Jack Smith's superseding indictment and the court documents and Jack Smith's immunity appeal. I mean, we as voters get to see that. We are able to see that. That's public knowledge, and I've summarized that in videos before that you can look at. In terms of how Donald Trump would adjust the cost of living, he just went back to his story of tariffs and taxes and how he would drill, baby, drill, because we are not producing enough energy right now, despite the fact that the United States is now producing more energy than any other country in the world. And we have that demand as well. So we still have to keep up energy production. And by the way, inflation is back down to where it was when Donald Trump left office. So while prices are still high, they are not any higher than they were when Donald Trump left office. So Donald Trump's argument of the prices going up, yeah, the prices went up because of the COVID crash, because of the bungling of the COVID pandemic, which Donald Trump more than once blamed on China by calling COVID the China virus, and nothing of his incompetence with that. And that is what, that's what these two competing uh, uh, people talked about. We heard Kamala Harris talk about immigration policy on solving the problem that has existed and transcended throughout presidencies. It wasn't just Biden's presidency. It was there during Trump's presidency. It was there before that. And Donald Trump didn't do anything about that. And now Donald Trump is fear mongering by saying at the end of every sentence that Kamala Harris is very bad, very bad, very bad. He is asked at the Univision town hall, what is something that you admire about her? And he said, very dangerous, but she's a survivor, she's a survivor, and I like some of the things that she says, but she's very dangerous, Well, thank you, Donald, for saying that she's a survivor, and she's going to survive this as well. She survived the Fox News interview with Brett Baier, where Brett Baier kept on trying to get her to say things that she just simply wouldn't take the bait. And then we have pit against that the same lies about January 6th, about Springfield, Ohio, about lying about large urban cities being the centers of crime. They're all them because they are led by Democrats, saying Chicago is a big problem now. Chicago's always had a crime problem, but it transcends presidencies. It has very little to do with one particular president, especially if it's a city. So I just wanted to wash over those events. Fox News seems to want to keep it to immigration, border policy, and transgender rights somehow, and the transgender issue with the military being able to have trans surgery. I believe it's the military, or it is Yeah, or prisons, federal prisons, whatever it is. That trans law was in effect when Donald Trump was in office as well, and there were no gender reassignment surgeries, but the law was implemented at that during Donald Trump's presidency as well. So with that said, I'd like to say that Harris kept it together. Whereas Donald Trump's answers were circuitous and didn't really answer the questions that were asked. It's very similar. These town halls and interviews are going to start sounding very similar to the other ones now. But it's important to see that Harris was able to hold her own with Fox News, whereas Donald Trump was thrown a softball by Fox News, where there was a room full of women who were all Trump supporters asking questions to Donald Trump with no undecided voters there. And then when he got to the undecided voters town hall, the Univision Hispanic American town hall, he got asked the tough questions about Springfield, Ohio, and about January 6th, and he spewed the same lies that he spewed, and he did not gain any votes from that Univision town hall. With that said, hey, thank you, Deb, for being here. Yeah, Harris did show the quality candidate that she is, and I'm glad to hear that you've already voted. I'm waiting for my ballot. If my ballot doesn't come until tomorrow, I'm going to do the electronic version and mail it in on priority. So I'll career it in. That's usually how I do it and make sure that Chicago Election Commission gets it. So with that said, thank you so much for being here. And please like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.